I'm on like a first name basis with every Parks and Rec officer in San Diego County. They've kicked me out of so many parks for throwing javelin. It would make your head spin. I've been kicked out of almost every park. And then at a certain point, one of them stopped me and he goes, "Man, I'm sick of kicking you out of these parks. Like I'm constantly coming up to you and telling you got to go home." Because I'm at least a good guy. Like I won't go to the same park, but I was just going from park to park to park trying to throw javelin. And he goes, "You can't be throwing spears in the park, dude."
This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission, help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle. All right, metalheads, welcome back to the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm here. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and I'm excited about the episode. I say this all the time. I'm really excited about every episode I do, but I'm really jacked about this one with my guest today, Shane Fisher. Now, Shane is a bobsled pilot for Team USA. But more importantly, or at least as important, I've got Shane on the show because he has started a foundation called the American Paragons Foundation, and I am stoked to be an official media partner for the American Paragons Association. Now, if you don't know what the American Paragons Association is, that is fair. I didn't know what it was, and most people don't because it's new. It was created by Shane Fisher, and the whole point of the American Paragons, and the word paragon means a shining example of a quality or a thing, which means it's a great term for an Olympian, right? They are paragons in their sport and in so many qualities. And the whole point of the foundation is to help U.S. athletes as they train, even when they're on Team USA. Now, if you are like me, you just assumed that once you're on Team USA, that means, hey, you've got money coming in, you're funded, everything's paid for, you're doing this. And there are some that is true for, but the vast majority is not true. Most of them are grinders. A lot of them have next to no money. They spend all their money just training. They don't have, because whenever you're training that much, you don't have enough time to really get a career. Sometimes it's hard to even hold down a job. And that was kind of news to me, and it's something we're going to talk about with Shane Fisher and why he did this. So the American Paragons is meant to fund underfunded athletes. That would be in all sports, all the little sports that we don't really know, but we only watch, when the Olympics come around. Personally, I watch anything if it's the Olympics. I don't care, but it's also the only time of the year I watch that. But I'm all in with the Olympics. But it's not just all sports. It's men, it's women, which can be underfunded, and the Paralympics. It does that as well. And the goal of the foundation is to connect athletes with people that want to help. That could be employers that are more than happy to employ athletes, knowing that their schedule is going to be somewhat different than most people. They got to leave for training. They may not be able to work as many hours as they want during a week. But the idea is connect them with them early, knowing that when they do stop being athletes and you've already got them as employees, they're going to make great employees. So he wants to connect people with that. He's connecting people with like VRBO and Airbnb so that athletes can get places to stay when they're traveling, when they're training. Again, that's something that I just assumed would be paid by the U.S. Olympic organization. That is just not true. And it's also to connect them with media partners like me to tell their story. So that means one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this episode is you're going to start hearing a lot of interviews on this podcast with U.S. Olympians of all sorts of different disciplines and sports. And that is just unbelievably cool to me to be able to support this organization and to support U.S. athletes. Now, it's a two-way street, right? So there's a couple things. One, yes, I absolutely get to help them to help tell their story. Maybe help them get some funding, have the platform to tell them a story so that somebody sees it. Somebody's like, hey, I'd love to hire this person and just help them get some, anything a little bit that I can do using my platform is great. But I get a little something in return because I get to interview elite athletes. I mean, I'm going to, some of the individuals that I already have ready to record or I've already recorded with that are coming up, we're talking about people that are in the top 10, top 25 of their discipline in the world. And you don't become that elite level just on physical ability. It is definitely a mental thing. And to be able to have these individuals on the podcast talking about the mental side of sports and mental toughness, it is, man, it's exciting to have this podcast and have this platform and be able to talk about this and be able to have athletes, elite athletes come on and talk about mental toughness and mental health and the importance of it and how we can develop that in young athletes. I plan to learn so much. I want to be able to take so many things away from what they teach me, put it on the podcast so that you, the coaches, the parents, the players all hear that and can apply it. That's exciting to be able to do that. And I'm starting today. I'm still going to have other guests, as usual, coaches and authors and things like that on the podcast, which I have those coming up, some really good stuff. But I'm definitely already have, I think 5 or 6 already ready to go to record or already recorded high-level athletes from climbing to Nordic combined skiing to discus to sprint cycling. It's so cool who I get to talk to, and I'm really looking forward to this. And so I'm going to have a conversation first with Shane Fisher. He is the founder of the American Paragons, but he's also a USA Bobsled pilot. And Shane, because we had so much to talk about, this episode is going to be a 2-part episode. I'm just going to split the interview down the middle. We ended up talking for way too long, and we talk about a lot of things. So I think first in today's episode, we're really going to talk about Shane's upbringing, which is absolutely phenomenal. It really, there's so many things we talk about because Shane, this is weird. Okay, Shane started everything in his athletic career. He started as a tennis player, and he was a really good tennis player, but he realized he wasn't good enough, and he really wanted to go be the Olympics, and he realized, hey, I'm not good enough to be at the Olympics, so he kind of switched gears, and he started doing track and became a decathlete and was working and getting bigger, faster, stronger on being a decathlete, but he had a long way to go there. And then he got an invite to go try out for the US Bobsled Team, which just needs athletes and then people crazy enough to go down a slick ramp in a tube, right? And he is that, and you'll find out. And so he is now on Team USA Bobsled, and just really such a great conversation on mentality because. Yes, obviously to do those things, tennis, decathlon, and then bobsled, you got to have physical capabilities, and he works on those a lot. But he will tell you, and he says so, that his number one quality is his mental toughness and how that keeps him going. And that, again, that's the kind of guest I want on the Mental Mettle podcast. So, oh, man, enjoy the interview. I'm going to talk with Shane Fisher, USA Bobsled pilot. And remember, it's first part of the episode. Next week, we'll have the second part. And the second part is when we really get more into the American Paragons Foundation and how that works and how you can help and how that applies, and really tells a lot of the story of how much of a struggle it is for U.S. athletes. So enjoy getting into the mind and mentality of a USA bobsled pilot. Welcome to Mental Mettle Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your mettle. All right, let's go. It's the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm here with my guest today, USA Bobsled pilot Shane Fisher.
How's it going?
I am, listen, I'm beyond excited to talk to you. As my podcast has grown, and I love basketball, football, baseball, but that's a lot of what I do, is talking to athletes like that. And then when you got a hold of me about some of the stuff that we're going to do, and just to talk about people from different disciplines and different sports, it's like, because I do think, and we're going to get into this, that of all the different skills and stuff that you need for different sports, they're just vast. Like they're so specific to the sport, right? The things that you need to know. But when we talk about mental toughness and we talk about some of the stuff that I talk about, I don't think they're different at all. I think it's, and that's kind of what's cool about it. So
yeah, I think this is gonna be really fun. Everyone and their brother wants to talk about basketball, but you don't get to talk about bobsled very often.
Right, I know. So let's get into that. Give me some of your background, because I know a little bit, but just let's start with the question: why bobsled?
Yeah, well, so for me, bobsled wasn't the like end all goal, like I don't think anybody grows up being like, I'm gonna be a bobsled superstar or something one day. Bobsled.
No, wait a minute. If you're from some Nordic country, maybe.
That's true. Germany, maybe in Germany, maybe in Switzerland, a couple of those places where they're just unbelievable powerhouses. But for the U.S. team, it's kind of like an island of misfit toys, where it's like there's a lot of people who just kind of got like unlucky in their previous sport, or something happened to them. Like we got a lot of guys that like COVID screwed up their ability to get film and to go to the NFL, or like they missed their pro day, and then all of a sudden like a year and a half or something has gone by since they've competed, and then now all of a sudden their NFL dreams are just sort of like taken out from under them. And then but they're still in like the top 0.0001% of like the fittest people on the planet, and they're so powerful, and they were training for football, and they're 21 years old or 22, 23, whatever it is, and they say, well, I've got something left to give, and then they end up with the bobsled team, right? Or there's people that are track athletes that are top 10 in the nation, but they miss out on an Olympic team by a tiny little margin, right? Or they just, they went D1 and they're like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make the Olympic team specifically for that, especially because the United States is such a powerhouse.
Well, especially when you're talking about track and field, right?
Yeah, exactly. The 100, right? Like you have to be just such an unbelievable freak of nature to be able to do that. And so they go, okay, well, I mean, bobsled it is, right? Or rugby athletes, and like the people come from all over, but those are really who kind of like get targeted for this. And that's how I got into it. I was a track athlete before I was even a track athlete. I was a tennis player. I was a college tennis player. That's what I did growing up. I mean, I played a lot of sports as a kid. I did a lot of different things. I played football, basketball. I swam. I did all sorts of stuff. But around like the age 13, I really started specializing for tennis. And my coach had gone to the Olympics twice, as in like when it was an exhibition event, because they used to throw tennis in
Right.
and out. And apparently during the years where it was an exhibition, like none of the pros wanted to go because you didn't get paid, and like
Right. I
everyone was
mean,
just like, I don't want to go to this. And so he was like the fifth or sixth best player in the United States, and so they're like, do you want to go? And he was like, you bet your ass I want to go. And
well,
so
I mean, what would, yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree.
yeah, why,
right?
like, yeah, why wouldn't you, right? And so we got to walk in the Parade of Nations and everything. And I had always been obsessed with going to the Olympics. That was my dream as a little kid. And I didn't really care how I got there. I mean, as a little kid, I was like, I'm gonna go for football. And like, but you're like, you're 8 years old and you don't realize football's not in the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And then I meet my coach, and he's got like the pictures of him in the Parade of Nations and like all of this like so cool. And it's just in his like dingy back office, and like nobody with like 100 like wooden rackets and stuff like that, and like no one's ever really heard of this guy. And I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. I was like, this is my icon now. And then I kind of really understood like, oh, this is in the Olympics, and I'm pretty good at this. And so I started training full time for that. I went to online school. That's all I did. I played like 6 to 8 hours of tennis every single day. And then I spent a couple years. I had some personal stuff going on. I spent 2 years at San Diego Mesa College, like one of the local community colleges. Then I was supposed to go play at the University of Chicago. And I had met some track athletes while I was training. I was obsessed with just training, just in general. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to train all day, every day. That's all I wanted to do. And so the exercise science professors just like gave me the key to the gym, because at that time the community college gym was just like these like hollowed out racquetball courts, and with a bunch of gym equipment in them. Like we had like the dingiest, crummiest gym you'd ever seen. And it's not like that. They renovated everything now, but back in my day, uh, it was like 10:30 at night, and I was just in there working out by myself. And then a couple of these Brazilian track guys came in, and the guy had like this young man. He had legs that were just like 30-inch circumference. It's just the
Yeah.
biggest legs I've ever seen. And I took him aside and I was like, what are you guys here for? Because I want to know how you get legs like that. And they said, oh,
Yeah.
this he's a 110-meter like hurdler. And I went, oh, that's really cool. And the older guy had gone to the Olympics 4 times for the 800. His name was Jose Barbosa. Two Brazilian guys. So I tell the coach, like, I want to be the fastest tennis player in the United States. And I wanted legs like that guy. And so he said, all right, come to the track tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. And I live over an hour away from the college. And I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I do that for the next year, a little bit over a year, 6 days a week. We got together and trained. It was really fun. I mean, some of the guys didn't speak English very well at all. We had a 400-meter guy, a 100-meter woman, the hurdler, another 800-meter guy, and the coach. And he would just scream at me in Portuguese, just like he lit me up every single day. It was unbelievable. And but I love those guys. And that year, I went to Europe to do a tournament circuit for tennis, and I was with a couple of my teammates that were French, and I was just getting rocked over there. I mean, I was doing my best, but it kind of like dawned on me that like the top three in the United States in tennis was just not going to happen, because tennis is also so competitive and there's so much
Yeah.
money in it as well, that it was like to be in the top three is just like I mean, you basically have to be ATP top 10 if you want to be top three in the United States. And that was 2016. So it was the Rio Games. So all my friends were hometown heroes over in Rio, and I was watching them on TV from like Italy and France. And I was just so jealous, and I was like, this is the coolest thing, like that's so awesome for them. So I called the coach up when I got back, and he had gone back, and I said, okay, if I leave my job, if I drop out of school and I quit playing tennis and I only run track and this is all I do you think I could go to the Olympics for track? And he said, "This is the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, please do not do that." But probably I do think you could. And so that's what I did the very next day. I said, all right, I'm not going to the University of Chicago. I stopped playing tennis. I started coaching tennis to try and make some money. And I said, okay, coach, what am I going to do? And he goes, well, you are like 6 inches too short to throw discus or shot put. Like, it's not even close. And you'd need like 200 more pounds of mass. And you are the wrong skin tone to be the fastest guy in the nation. And but you're stronger than the fast people. You're faster than the strong people. And you're completely out of your mind. So decathlon it is. And I said, awesome. That sounds great. What's decathlon?
Yeah.
And that started. And I just started going around. I had no like institutional support in any way. Like, my NCAA clock had already been used up for tennis, so I couldn't go start running track in college because I had absolutely zero experience. I had never I ran on the track. I didn't own spikes. I had never touched an implement. Like, I never touched a javelin. I'd never pole vaulted. I'd never done anything. I was going to online school. I'd never been to a dual team meet. I had nothing. And he put me in contact with some multis coaches, and I just started making it work. So I just started going to the park and throwing in the park. I'm on like a first name basis with every Parks and Rec officer in San Diego County. They've kicked me out of so many parks for throwing javelin. It would make your head spin. I've been kicked out of almost every park. And then at a certain point, one of them stopped me and he goes, man, I'm sick of kicking you out of these parks. Like, I'm constantly coming up to you and telling you got to go home. Because I'm at least a good guy. Like, I won't go to the same park, but I was just going from park to park to park trying to throw javelin. And he goes, you can't be throwing spears in the park, dude. And I was like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I can't, like, what am I going to go to the high school and throw spears on the turf? Like,
I mean, just watch out for the dog park. I mean, you're good.
Well, that's where he sent me. He goes, listen, there's a dog park down the street. Hardly anybody ever goes there, and it's on my beat. So if you go to that dog park and you promise not to throw when there's any dogs, I'll leave you alone. And so I said, all right. And that's where I started throwing javelin. And then I could only high jump when the pits were out, because I had nowhere to jump. So the local high school pits weren't out. I didn't jump. I had nowhere to pole vault. I spent my first 2 years as a decathlete not pole vaulting because I had nowhere to do it. And I didn't own any equipment. I didn't own anything. So I just trained to everything else and was like, I'll figure out pole vault later. And I did that for 6 years. And I just kept working at it. And then eventually I started like going to meets and like sort of networking with people and building out like kind of like a coaching team where like I would have like one person would help me with a certain event and a different person would help me with that. And all of my money went to go to paying all these people to try and like make it happen. And then my pole vault coach ended up like taking me aside one day and she was like, hey, I got an email from the United States Bobsled Skeleton Federation and they're doing a big recruitment push. This is in 2022. And she's a CSCS and she apparently had like vaulted with a guy who was on the team like 15 years ago or something like that. And so she was on some kind of email list that they were like cold emailing a bunch of people like for recruitment, which is basically what they do. And she was like, do you want to go try it out? Looks like fun. And I went, yeah, sure. And so they have like a combine, which is like the NFL combine. You have to run the 40. You have to do like a standing high jump, standing broad jump. And then you have to submit a bunch of videos of you doing like various athletic feats to sort of like prove that
you're like, I got that, right?
And I was like, easy peasy, nothing to me. And so I had never ran a 40 before or nothing. And like you have to have it like proctored. It has to be like proctored by the CSS woman. Because everyone would just be like, yeah, I run a 4.2. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so she goes and we do this like big day of testing and I submit it. And then like 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Lake Placid. And then you do a 2 week long, like absolute, like you drink it from a fire hose crash course on how to push bobsleds.
Well, I mean, when you say crash course.
Yeah. Seriously, I mean, like, it's unbelievable. Like you have no idea what's going on, but everybody's just like wide eyed and excited because you're at the OTC and like, you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Like Lake Placid is like halfway between Albany, which is already the middle of nowhere, and like Montreal, and it's smack dab in the middle. There's nothing to do, but you're just so excited because you're like, I'm here training in the mountains like a Shaolin monk, you know what I mean? And it's cool for a couple weeks, but I've spent 10 weeks straight there before, and after 3 or 4, you start to feel like it's the hotel in The Shining. Like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. But anyway, yeah, you do that stuff, and then they've got an age cutoff for piloting. So if you're older than 26 years old, they will not accept you as a pilot, because learning how to drive the sleds takes a really long time and is very,
Right.
very difficult to do.
Well, that's what
And
I meant when I said crash course. Like there's a whole nother level of that interpretation when it comes to learning how to run a bobsled.
Brother, just wait till you start going down the real mountain, because it's just on. Like there's nothing to prepare you. Like, you walk the track 1 or 2 times and you have a general idea, and the coach is just like, yeah, man, don't die, like, figure it out, like, because there's nothing in this world that operates like a bobsled, because the way that you drive bobsleds is manipulating like centrifugal force and g-force pressure. Because like, so the bobsled moves, and it's got 4 blades on the bottom that are called runners, and you have your hands are holding onto rings like this, which are connected to bungee cords, which are connected to the axle. And so when you pull back and create tension on one of the bungee cords, it turns the axle. But you only are capable of driving and really like controlling that sled if it's on a curve. So if the centrifugal force is pushing the sled into the ice, then you can apply pressure into the bungee and you can guide the sled around. The thing is, you will always turn downward. So you'll, like, if you're turning left and you're going towards the left, you're always going to pull on the left ring. If you're going to the right, you're always going to pull on the right ring,
Right.
to help you go that way. And when you put force into the ring, it increases the amount of pressure that is on the sled, and the g-force pressure and all these other things. When you let go and you release the tension on the bungee, the centrifugal force wants to lift the sled again, right? So like, the sled started to go down,
Okay.
and now it wants to come back up. And so you have to know exactly how much pressure to apply, know exactly how much the sled is going to respond to that pressure, so how much it's actually going to turn down. And then when you release that pressure, how much it's going to want to come back. And then you have to be able to time it perfectly memorize the entire mile long track. Because if you mistime it, or you apply too much pressure or not enough pressure, you end up barrel rolling and flipping and crashing. And there's nothing else on the entire planet that is operational like that. Like, you can't drive a car, because that has nothing to do with it. You can't go surfing. Like, there's nothing that you can do. And so the coaches just kind of like shrug their shoulders. Like, when they take a new person, they're just like, I don't know, man, you'll figure it out or you won't. And that's it. And then you either eat it or you do not. And like, by the end of 1 week of that, the coach will, like, they'll be like, oh, you've got it. Or they'll be like, get out.
There is a natural little bit of ability to kind of like understand.
It's 100%. Like, I mean, like, you can learn it theoretically, and you have to learn it, and like, there's
right,
a lot of memorization and stuff. But it's an inherent thing where it's like you've got it or you don't got it, like, period. And it's one of those things where,
well, we don't have time for you to like learn this skill while you're crashing bobsleds and cracking your head.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing. And if someone doesn't like obviously kind of like get it, or just like have a knack for it, and there's also a lot of like overcoming the fear, right? Which is kind of gets into where this podcast is like really a special thing.
Yeah.
Because your life is on the line. Like, you can die doing this. The people behind you's lives are on the line. Like, they're trusting you to not kill them or paralyze them or maim them for life. And if you panic in those sorts of situations and you forget things, or you have outsized responses to things, you can kill those people. And so there's a lot of times people will come in and they're going to think it's so easy. And then, they walk up to the start line and the gate is there and it says, severe injury or death will occur beyond this point. And then they start going, oh, I don't really know. And then they start walking down the track and they're like, oh, this is looking pretty fast. And then, they see somebody crash in practice and there's like blood on the track or something.
Yeah.
Or the guy's like, hey, man, like, I've got a concussion so bad, that they like can't remember their own name later on in the day. And then all of a sudden it's your turn to go and you're starting to like rethink all your life choices.
Let's go.
Like, yeah. Like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then you can't drive anymore. So you have to, like, especially to be a driver for one of these like vehicles and in this sport, like, you have to be so delusionally confident in yourself. Like you cannot for 1 millisecond like doubt that you are going to succeed, because if you do, then you're destining yourself to crash.
There's just so little room for error when it comes to like your confidence versus
like it has to be like otherworldly levels of confidence.
Well, it's like, I mean, let's compare it to tennis. You miss a shot, you're like, I'll get the next one. And
exactly. There is no more I'm going to get the next one. There's I'm concussed. Like or my leg is broken, or my entire or I can't walk now, or something like that, right? And so that's another thing where I think everyone's going to just give a bunch of bro science for what makes somebody good at driving bobsleds, but I think that my background in tennis did help me quite a bit, because I, as a tennis coach, which is all I've been a sports performance coach and a tennis coach. That's been my entire professional career. I think a lot about confidence and getting over the yips and believing in yourself. And then you also, as a tennis player, are pretty, when you achieve a high level of tennis, you're incredibly dexterous. And so I think my level of dexterity plus my ability to sort of think through nervous situations helped me significantly when I began this. But there's in tennis, I could when I was a kid, I would go out to the tennis court and I would play Led Zeppelin on the speakers, and I would hit serves for 3 straight hours.
Right.
And at maximum, you get 3 to 4 minutes of practice a day for bobsled, because
you can't
do 3 runs and that's it. And you're done. And the run lasts around a minute approximately. And so before you go, you have to be visualizing every single thing that you're going to do for several hours, especially. And then as you're getting ready to do it, and then you have to have the post sliding recall to remember every single thing that happened. And then all of your mistakes and what you need to do to fix them. And then you need to go through it and study it and be like, okay, what am I going to do next time to fix that thing? And over the course of an entire season, you might only get an hour or 2 of practice in terms of
See, that's what's amazing. And that's when you were talking about this, a paragon is a model of excellence, a standard by which others are measured, which makes it a perfect word for Olympians who embody dedication, resilience, and the very peak of physical and mental performance. With that in mind, we want to highlight our partners at the American Paragons Foundation. They're a nonprofit supporting Team USA athletes in underfunded, women's, and adaptive sports by helping them with career opportunities, media exposure, and real-world support beyond competition. Here at the Mental Mettle Podcast, we are proud to be collaborating with them and help amplify the stories and missions of athletes who deserve more visibility. Check out AmericanParagons.org to learn more. There are a ton of ways you can get involved that don't cost a dime. Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they can still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great, they're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching. The thought that came in my head is just, the question I was going to ask, and you kind of said it there, is the use of visualization has to be huge in your sport. Because one, I'm a huge fan of visualization, and I don't think enough people use it in sports that it's not as important as it is for bobsled, because I think it helps. Well, you speak to it, but I think it really helps with the confidence aspect.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a sport on the planet that wouldn't benefit from visualization. If nothing else, it's a confidence technique, right? Where the more you visualize yourself succeeding, the more you breathe it into reality, right? Like it becomes an immutable outcome rather than something that you
Hmm.
were striving towards. You say, "Oh, this I'm going to do this, and then this is going to happen, and then I'm going to do this, and then this is going to happen, and then I'm going to walk out of here with a trophy." Whereas people who do not visualize things beforehand are almost reacting to things that happen to them rather than planning things to happen, right? And
Right.
uh, and
Well,
it's such a
we have really good imaginations when it comes to what could go wrong.
yeah. We never have a good enough imagination for what could go right.
Right, I know. That's why you have to use visualization, because I think that is what you're doing.
Mhm.
Because there's no limit for the ways that things can go wrong, and if you let your imagination go with that, it'll just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in bobsled, it's just the absolute pinnacle of that thing because if you believe that you're going to crash for even a single moment, like you're going to crash. Like there is no doubt at all. Like it's going over. And
Well, it sounds to me like there's a lot of connection between. I watched there's a Netflix documentary on the Blue Angels, if you've seen that.
Mhm.
And they do a full before they go and do their program. And if you know the Blue Angels, you know they're so
Yeah.
close, and they're going through, their leader is taking them through their visualization with every, like, they've got their hands just like you might for a
Hmm.
visualization on their throttle and their stick, and they're visualizing every single thing that they're going to do through an entire program, because it's, again, they're kind of like you in the sense that you can only do this run a few times.
Yeah. How many
Like,
times are you going to do a full Blue Angels, choreograph?
right. So you have to, you've got to be visualizing this, because I've dug into visualization. There's a book, Nate Zisner, the Confident Mind, talks about how it's not like what you described there. When it thinking about visualization builds the confidence, which it absolutely does. It's literally actually activating muscles, like the nerves and the connections, so that your body kind of knows it's practicing firing those muscles, even if it's just a micro, right? But it
Yes.
knows. And I love that anytime that we can find a connection between our brain and our body and being able to understand that and connect it, I think that's how athletes can get so much better at a sport. It's because we're doing these things from a mental perspective.
And there's so much sort of like Pavlovian training that you can do for yourself by visualizing consistently in
Yes.
your training because like, for example, they teach us a lot about visualization at the Olympic Training Center. Like they'll bring in guest speakers and people will come and speak to us about the importance of certain training techniques and other things. And uh, they talk about the exact same thing. You can essentially train your nervous system to be aroused based off of the visualization technique, and you break it down into senses, right? So you'll close your eyes and you'll think
Mm-hmm.
about what it's going to sound like, right? The first thing you think about. And so like I'll sit there and I'll think about my feet crunching into the ice, right? Because I'm wearing these shoes with needles on the bottom of them, and so you can hear it, and you can almost like it's like the crunching of snow under your feet a little bit, and then like the smell of the inside of my motorcycle helmet, and I know exactly what that smell is like, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
the sounds of the people on the loudspeakers or the crowds cheering or whatever it is, and you start to get into that moment where you're like, I am there and I am truly participating in this thing. And then you think about the muscles and what you're feeling inside of your own body. And when you start to do that and you start getting wired, like more and more and more wired, you can significantly improve your actual performance during those one or two, maybe three
Yeah.
pushes you get in the day, and use it as part of your warm up routine. Every time if I put my motorcycle helmet on, it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like I
Yeah.
have like an absolutely like feral response to smelling the inside of my motorcycle helmet. And I don't think I'll ever be able to put a helmet on for the rest of my life without immediately being like, I am on the bobsled line now. And I think that is what makes you successful long term. And you could do that for other sports. There's nothing saying that it cannot be extrapolated out to basketball or baseball or football or
Oh,
really any
absolutely.
sport at all. And
Well, that's the thing is, as you guys are talking, you're talking about them bringing people to work in at Lake Placid to work with these Olympians and stuff, that it's like, there's a lot invested into this. Right. And you guys are USA Olympic and they're bringing these people to do about visualization. But whenever I go to like a high school basketball team with high school kids and I try to do this, and I have some success. I'm not saying I don't, but there's always a kid or two in there that are like, or not even a kid, a coach is like, well, this is silly. This is stupid stuff. And I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, it's not. Like, the world-class athletes do this to shave seconds or shave points or to do this stuff. Like, I think it's going to help you and your basketball team hit a bucket once in a while. Like, it's not
exactly. And the thing is, almost every time you get a reaction like that, it's from a guy who's never competed at a high level. Like, it's a guy that was like, oh, I played on my high school team and there's no one else available to coach. And so I'm going to show up, you know what I mean? I'm going to coach for 2 hours. I'm going to go drink beers afterward. And they have no real plan, right? But like, anyone who has achieved a truly high level of sport understands what you need to do, and that it's not a gimmick and it's not, cringy. It's training, right? And it's just as important as going to the weight room and training your body, or going to the track and conditioning, or hitting your free throws, or doing any of those other things. I mean, probably the most important thing to hit your free throws that you could possibly do is the visualization.
I know that one's
going out and even shooting free throws, frankly.
It is, and that's what people don't believe that, but it does, because whenever I tell a kid, I'm like, listen, if I tell you to go and lay down at night and watch yourself shooting 100 free throws, how many you're going to make? They're like, well, I'm going to make 100 of them, right? Okay, I'm like, listen, that the confidence boost that you get from that, like, I guarantee you're not making 100 of them whenever you go down there and do it for real. Like, you can control that in your mind and get that confidence boost. And it's absolutely, I agree. Once you know the muscle memory, the visualization is somewhat better because it's even easier on your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's one of those things that you don't need to be going out there and spending all day long doing the same repetitive task. And then you can focus on the other accessories that will make you better at doing that repetitive task. So like, I think about this in terms of tennis a lot, and you could go out and you could hit, 2,000 serves a day. I mean, your arm would probably turn to mincemeat after a certain while. Like, maybe if you're 13, you might be able to figure it out. But if you're an adult, like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right? If you're in college, absolutely not. If you're hitting the serve 130 miles an hour, right, you cannot do that 2,000 times in a day because you're too efficient. You're like neurologically efficient. You're muscularly efficient. Everything, your output is immense, right? And you cannot possibly do that 2,000 times in a day. So if you want to make it better, how are you going to do that, right? And at that point, it becomes, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to hit 100 of them, and then I'm going to go hit 150, 250, 350 in my mind, right? And you could do that before you go to sleep. You could do that at any point during the day, and then you could go to the gym and say, well, I'm going to work on my shoulder external rotation stuff. I'm going to make my, my shoulder girdle like more mobile. I'm going to be stronger in XYZ way, and that's going to push the needle on getting a better serve, a stronger serve, a faster serve. But if you had spent that same time and energy just going out and hitting serves, you probably would have just spun your wheels and gone nowhere.
Yeah, and I think, and I agree, it's like there's different ways to move the needle, and I think that you have to be employing a lot of them, not just one over and over again. And it's when there's something I thought of when you're talking about the people that kind of scoff at visualization. I do agree that I think a lot of times it's people that haven't done anything at a high level, but I think it's also a piece. It requires a little bit of vulnerability and a little bit that I think some people, when you're talking about that feral response you have to your helmet and things like that, I think that there are some people that get a negative response to some of that visualization at first. Yeah. And they like, I don't want to close my eyes and think about this because it triggers almost like a
flight, but in a bad way.
It in a bad way. And that's a whole nother issue that you've got to work out, and visualization can help you with that. But I think that hitting that sympathetic nervous system and getting that fight or flight, because that can happen, right? If you're like, hey, I tend to, it's going to happen, right? And you can actually trigger that by just thinking about stuff too. And if that's happening, it's all the more reason why you need to practice this stuff, because
Yeah,
it's
because
not
then
going to
what
go
do
what
you do when it happens in real life?
exactly. But I
Because if
think
it's
that
happening to
keeps,
you in your bed at 9 o'clock at night, the second you close your eyes and start thinking about it, okay, go into a stadium with 2,000 people watching and all the expectations in the world on your shoulders, and I guarantee you it's going to happen.
yeah, I work with athletes, and I had a girl I was working with, and she was like, all right, I realized today I have an issue because I sat down in my study hall and I started thinking about my race, and my Apple Watch pinged and told me that I needed to calm down. And her
Yeah.
heart rate, she was sitting in study hall, and her heart rate started spiking because she was getting so nervous about her 800. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what we're talking about. Like the connection between your mind and your body is so strong. You definitely need to continue to work on this and do your breathing and calm yourself down. Like you need a little bit of activation energy before you compete, but it shouldn't be that level, right? Like
Yeah.
you
They
got to
even
be able
tell
to,
us at the Olympic Training Center, do not do this immediately before bed. They were like, you can do some visualization things,
right?
but you have to compartmentalize it to be different aspects. They said specifically, do not do pre-race visualization before you sleep, because I used to do this a lot, which is funny that they had mentioned it at the OTC, because uh, I used to have rules for myself as a decathlete of what events I was allowed to think about in bed. And because every single night,
Right.
all I thought about was sports. All I thought about was
Yeah.
how I was going to do at my next competition, or like this thing that was bothering me. And I had a rule where I was not allowed to think about the 100, the 1500, or the 400. Because every time I started thinking about those in bed, my heart rate got to 200 beats per minute, because I was visualizing getting on the starting blocks and getting ready to hear the sound of the gun. And it
Yeah.
was so vivid and it was so strong of an image that my heart rate went up. We were like, you're on the starting blocks right now, like get ready to run. And my heart rate would start going, pop, 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 and I couldn't sleep. And so I would have to be like, okay, you're allowed to think about throwing shot put and discus. And you can think about these things that aren't going to elevate your heart rate because they don't have that moment of go, but thinking about something that has a moment of now, that it's so powerful in improving or like elevating your heart rate, that you just can't do them before bed. But they're really great to do before the race,
Oh,
right? Like
absolutely.
fantastic to do before the race or post workout or something like that, when you're already sympathetic. You can absolutely do it then, and it's super valuable. But like, yeah, you have to have rules for yourself. You have to know what you want to visualize and when, and what the goal of the visualization session is as well.
Yeah, I think that that's important for you to bring up, that there's different reasons to do visualization, because I do some visualization with people, and the entire idea is we don't even visualize the sport. We visualize like getting ready in the locker room, walking out onto the field and feeling confident and being calm, because that's what we need to feel confident. Right.
Yeah.
So some of your visualization, like what you do for the runs, is absolutely important, but you're right. That's a very sympathetic reaction. Like we need that. But I think that there's some we need to be able to say, I'm going to visualize myself being calm and confident, because you can do that same exact stuff right there. There's like,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many uses of visualization that it's like, well, we have been talking about it for a while, but we could talk about it forever.
Yeah.
And I do think it's one of the most underused skills in all of athletics.
Absolutely. I think it's like one of the most valuable tools in a toolbox that you need to develop in order to take yourself to a certain level. I think about athletics a lot of times as I break it into at my training company. I've got pillars of athleticism, and I've got attitude, mindset, and coordination as what I call enlightened pillars, which are basically things that are not like base like caveman qualities that you must amplify and get better
Yeah.
at in order to be better, right? Because like, for example, if you take someone who's unbelievably strong, which is just like a caveman characteristic, just pure strength, uh, they will be better at certain things, but they will not automatically become the world's greatest wrestler, right?
Right.
Like strength is a trait that you must possess to be a good wrestler, but you need to be able to like display the strength through coordination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through your sport specific skill. And you also need to be able to maintain a strategy, adapt to things that are happening to you, to maintain your confidence and your focus and all those other things. And if you don't have those things locked up, and you're not successful at training those things and treating them with the same respect that you treat strength training to get stronger, then you might as well not strength train.
I agree.
You're not going to get better at sport. You'll just get stronger, and it's like, okay, just go to the gym.
Well, and it's so I say something similar. If you want to be good at a sport, you need game skills or specific skills for that discipline. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, right? And you have physical skills. You got to work the body faster, bigger, faster, stronger. And then the mental skills. You need to be working on them. And I talk about this all the time when I'm talking to parents, I talk to coaches, that like, as a culture, sports culture, we're really good at the game specific skills with kids, and now getting them in the gym. Mm-hmm. We do almost none of the mental stuff, and we just say, oh, we'll figure it out. And that's what kids are struggling with now is it's like there's 3 areas. We're putting our money, time, and effort into 2 of the 3, and we're struggling with the 3rd. I'm like, well, you should not be surprised. Yeah. It's right, because that's not where and it's probably the most important.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I don't want to sound conspiratorial with this, but if I had to guess why we're in the situation that we're in, it's because there's more money to be made in those other 2 aspects, right? Like, people can make a lot of money teaching game skills. They can make a lot of money teaching strength skills these days, right? Mm-hmm. Those physical qualities. And the type of people that are very talented and understand mental skills and want to share those are also usually people who are not ravenously hungry for money.
Listen, I no, you're explaining the problems I have as a business owner, right?
Yeah, you're just exactly. Like, that's because you want to give it away for free, right? Like, you want to help kids, you want to like make someone, because sport is just a microcosm for life, right? And all of what we do out here is about understanding adversity, knowing who you are as a person, and then navigating adversity and overcoming, dealing with failure, dealing with success. All of those things, like, that is what sport is. And when you understand that mental side, which is so tied in to understanding how sport is that microcosm for life, you want to give those things away for free, because you start to think of it as a much more human endeavor rather than a money-making operation. And it makes it very difficult. And I think a lot of times it gets just thrown to the wayside because the people who do care about it very much are kind of either giving it away for free, or the people who are trying to monetize it are, I don't want to say charlatans, but they're looking at it as a money-making endeavor rather than the thing that it is. And so it's very difficult. The Venn diagram of people who want to provide the service in a genuine way and the people who want to make money are 2 separate circles.
This is, you'll enjoy this. My son and I, he plays college basketball. We ran a summer camp in which the first hour of it was in the classroom working on mental skills and stuff like that. Next hour was on the 3rd skill set, which is getting in the weight room. My son's a personal trainer as well as being a basketball player, so he'd run him through that. And then the 3rd hour was in the gym working on game skills when we would apply that. And but I had to kind of do a camp like that had the last 2 to get people to want to
cover
do
the
it.
First one.
To get to the first one. It was a great camp, and I loved it. But yeah,
I also think it's very difficult to get buy-in from youth athletes in the same way for the mental skills. I think the buy-in is difficult for different reasons for different people, but I think understanding the idea that this is a stage in which you're playing out your own life and you're playing yourself as a character is a difficult concept to get across to children.
It is,
because it requires like a 12th grade reading level, basically, right? You know, like you have to be able to like contextualize yourself within the world, and then like also contextualize the game as though it's like you're a character in a book almost. And
That's
I think
using that.
that's very
Yeah.
difficult to get across for children, and it's very difficult for a kid who doesn't really understand it in the way, like fully, just because they're young, to understand the value in what you're giving. And so when you say, oh, I need you to visualize this and I need you to do this and it's going to build your confidence, whatever, they're just like, oh, this is just an old woo-woo man.
Yep.
Like, get out of my way, old man. I want to shoot basketballs. And for adults, a lot of times it's very painful and difficult self-reflection that is necessary in order to do that. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that level of introspection, and they don't want to like face those demons that are within them. And it's the same reason people don't want to go to therapy, right? Like,
listen, listen, the old idea of toughness where you just keep everything out and build up a wall is not toughness, it's fear. And one of the toughest things you can do is be vulnerable. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth.
You can't be brave if you're not afraid.
No,
it can't be done. So it makes it so much. And I also think that old school mentality of just, rub some dirt on it and you're fine, whatever toughness, that is both foundationally incorrect, but it also goes against a lot of these mental training ideas, because the mental training tools are all tools in a toolbox for that introspection, right? And then I think a lot of coaches who are not willing themselves personally, because they're afraid to face those things, don't want to create a program, right, where they're in charge, in which they have those things, because it would force them to evaluate themselves in a deeper way.
I agree. And I think that the issue is, and kind of what I found out is that when you, like, let's say you want to talk and work with yourself in a negative way and talk to yourself in a negative way and use that negative voice, because a lot of people do that. And is the idea that the negative voice is a fantastic short-term motivator with long-term consequences. And that's the problem, right? Is because I can yell at myself and I will maybe get up off the couch and get something done today, but it doesn't last. It's not, and it starts to break down. If you tell yourself you're a fat slob enough, you might at first get off identity. It becomes an identity, right? So that negative voice that you use to get yourself off the couch, you start to believe it.
Because you're a fat
why bother?
slob.
And it does not, unless you're somehow David Goggins, who does that all the time, and I don't know how he does that, and still, although he's probably not the most mentally healthy individual on the planet.
I think he's definitely not.
So the problem is, people look at that and think, well, this is how you do it. And I'm like, it's not how you do it. It's not the good idea. Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient and persistent and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching. A paragon is a model of excellence, a standard by which others are measured, which makes it a perfect word for Olympians who embody dedication, resilience, and the very peak of physical and mental performance. With that in mind, we want to highlight our partners at the American Paragons Foundation. They're a nonprofit supporting Team USA athletes in underfunded women's and adaptive sports by helping them with career opportunities, media exposure, and real-world support beyond competition. Here at the Mental Mettle Podcast, we are proud to be collaborating with them and help amplify the stories and missions of athletes who deserve more visibility. Check out AmericanParagons.org to learn more. There are a ton of ways you can get involved that don't cost a dime. I think my favorite part of the episode there is that Shane is fine not mincing words about the need to practice mentality and how coaches need to do that. I'm a really nice guy, and I have to own the business, and I can't offend too many people. But when we get talking about mentality and the need to practice visualization and to practice a little bit of vulnerability and the growth of that, he is very clear to say that if you are serious about this, if you know what you're doing, a coach definitely needs to be practicing visualization, needs to be teaching mentality, and yeah, I mean, he gets into just calling people out and not want to do things just for the money, which I know that there's sides of it, and he went a little bit deeper than I'm willing to do, but just his certainty that if you are working with athletes in a sport, and it doesn't matter the sport, that you have to be, if you're doing something, if you really want to do this for something to help them and to make them better people and stronger people, that you have to be purposely and intentionally working on some of the mental mindset stuff. And again, he's not just saying it's something you should do, it's something you have to be doing, if it just not just for performance, but for what's best for people. And man, it's hard for me to disagree with him, because I really feel like that's the case. And I do think that there's a little bit of awareness or lack of awareness over that. And that's part of why I do this podcast, is because I'm going to put that out there, is that not only is it something you can do and develop somebody's mental mindset and create their mental toughness and help their mental health, it's something you should be doing as a coach, as a parent, as the athlete. So what you should be doing. So it's really, again, I think it's powerful to hear it from somebody who has continued to be an athlete and continue to succeed, that this should not be an optional thing. It should be just an absolute necessity, is working on mentality and visualization and working on the confidence and having belief in yourself, that they are things you just have to have, that you just have to be working on and you need to be working on. And I love that. Couldn't agree more. So it's fantastic. So we're going to jump back in where the conversation stopped next week. Shane's back next week. We're going to it's some really cool stories we're going to talk about. He gets into how he's continued to fail forward. And I love that idea of how he just keeps failing, but it doesn't stop him whatsoever from moving forward. And there's a lot to be learned from there. And then we're really going to get into, he tells some really crazy stories about being a bobsledder and how expensive it is and how much of a grind it is and how much work it takes to come up through the circuit in bobsled and the funding and all of that. And he ties that into the American Paragons Foundation. So make sure you come back. In the meantime, in the show notes, you're going to see a link for the American Paragons Foundation. Check it out. See where you can help. There's things you can do to help that don't cost anything. You can just be a partner just to help spread it. We're going to get some, I know he's working on social medias for the stuff. It's a brand new foundation. I'm really cool to be in on the inception of it and be early on it. But as he'll talk here in a little bit, I think he told me already that he's already connected with 80% of the U.S. Olympians, and he's working on the rest. And the dude is connected on all of the Olympians, and they're all excited about it because they know that this is a need and they want to help each other, and they're great people. So really excited. Get on there. Follow the foundation, see if you can help, and continue to support the show, because as I said, I'm going to have a bunch of Olympians on here, and I could not be more excited about that. So join in next week to see it continue. So for now, this has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.